We love to talk about live sports, but we cannot help but get into the Madden 21 ratings. Hi everyone, my name is Nick Delahanty. I am a co-host here on the Let's Debate podcast. And right away, I'm excited to get into this conversation today. We're going to break down the ratings for this year's Madden video game. If you play video games, if you're an Xbox user, a PS4 user, or you're looking for a console for the future, Madden is a game that a lot of people around the world definitely get into and are excited about. Kyle, how are you doing first and foremost? And give me your thoughts about Madden in general.
I'm doing well, Nick. Excited to be back. It's another episode of Let's Debate podcast. You know, I'm a big Madden guy. I've always been playing Madden since, it's hard to say, but I would say probably the late 90s. I had a game on Nintendo 64. Probably too young to actually play it, but from about Madden 2001 to about Madden 2012, I would play every single year. I took about a 5-6 year break, picked up a game a few years ago, and then I made sure I got Madden 2020. So I'm excited to get into this talk. But before we do that, I just want to say welcome back to the Let's Debate podcast. If you missed our previous episode, Nick and I discussed the Major League Baseball preview and our predictions. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, make sure you go check that out. While you're at it, head over to our social media. You can find us on Instagram at Delahanty Media. You can find us on Facebook, Let's Debate Podcast, as well as Twitter at Let's Debate Pod. And like Nick said, we're going to jump into Madden ratings today.
First and foremost, you're getting really good at the social media. And as you see on our screen, you can't see it because I kind of tricked out the screen to show some of the Madden covers. If you see right under me, I'm kind of disappointed I cover my boy Vince Young's face, but it is what it is. We had to get everybody in and make it look pretty good for you guys. And as you can see to the side of us right now, this year's cover athlete is none other than Lamar Jackson, a guy that really took the NFL by storm. What do you think about Jackson? You think he's the right guy for the Madden cover this year?
Yeah, I feel like it was pretty much a no-brainer. You know, the guy won the MVP. He's really stepped it up the past 2 years, you know, coming in late last year, leading the Ravens to the playoffs, and then getting the #1 seed in the AFC this past year. But really just the fact that he's changing the game. We haven't had a player at the quarterback position like him since Michael Vick, and some believe that he's better than Michael Vick. So he's kind of the guy right now, along with Patrick Mahomes, that all the kids want to be. So I think he's the right fit for the cover. Let's just, in his case, hope that there's no Madden curse.
Since the last couple of years, we've seen a little bit of the Madden curse go away. You can name some of the guys that kind of got away from it. So you hope that a guy like Jackson can stay healthy because, like you said, we haven't seen a player like him since Vic. And I know the comparisons are there, and they kind of say, oh, you know, he's better in this aspect, Vic was better in that aspect, but the kid could play. And if he could stay healthy and the Ravens could protect him and give him something to work with, he's going to be special for a long time, in my opinion. Now, let's jump right into the team ratings. And before the show, we kind of jumped into this a little bit. And the ratings are on our screen available for you. They seem a little bit low as compared to other years. And the team that comes out with the highest team rating right away is the New Orleans Saints at 85 overall. Now, obviously, as the game updates, as you guys know, the ratings change as the year goes on. But as you're looking at these ratings, was there any team that kind of surprised you with their rating, whether it be too high or too low?
Well, I think the surprising part of the ratings for me was the fact that the highest was an 85 and that it was the Saints. I don't think the Saints should be the highest rated team. I also think that there should be a few teams, maybe one or two, that should be in the 90s. I think the highest rated team, in my opinion, should be the defending Super Bowl champion, the Chiefs. I mean, you have Patrick Mahomes, who we know is a 99 in the game. You know, they have, in my opinion, an improved defense. They have a loaded offense. They have a great coach. You know, if you think that the Chiefs aren't going to come out hot again this year, you're crazy. They're going to. So I think the Chiefs should be the highest rated team. And like I said, I think I'm a little surprised about how low the ratings are in general, and especially 85 being the highest. What about you?
I think that's a slap in the face to the Chiefs, having them at an 82 overall. You know, you can say what you want. You add and subtract guys over the year, but as the defending Super Bowl champion with the best quarterback on the planet, I don't see how you can make them an 82. I get the Saints have a decent roster coming back, arguably probably one of the best teams in the league, but it's kind of weird to me that the Chiefs are so low. And if you look at some of the teams they're behind, it even is more amazing to me. They're behind the Eagles. They're behind the Cowboys. They're behind the Ravens. They're behind the 49ers. And they're the defending Super Bowl champions. So a little bit weird to me. And as we're on the topic, the other thing that in terms of low ratings was the AFC East. Now, obviously, no Tom Brady, so the Patriots aren't their normal 89 to 90 overall. But the highest rated team in the division is an 81 overall, and it's the Patriots and the Bills. And obviously the Jets stink, and the Dolphins are probably the worst team in the league at 76 overall. But I was just surprised, like you said, how low these ratings are. Usually you get a couple of teams that are in that 87 to 88 range, and you don't want to overhype them early, but it's just weird to me that we don't have anybody that's kind of over the top, and where the defending champs are is absolutely nuts to me.
Oh, yeah, and I don't remember the last time the Patriots were in 81. We obviously know why that is, because Tom Brady is no longer there. But the division as a whole, I agree if you're going to have the Patriots at 81, you should have the Bills tied with them because, in my opinion, I would say the Bills are probably the best team in the division. I don't want to completely, say that the Patriots are done because Tom Brady's not there. They still have Bill Belichick. But it's fitting for the Jets to be a 78. They're not a good team. The Dolphins, yes, they arguably are the worst team in the league at 76. But the crosstown rivals for the Jets are the Giants at 78 too, and I agree with that as well. But I am just surprised by some of these, like the Seahawks being 80. The fact that I mentioned the Chiefs before, they're in 82, and the Raiders are in 81. I mean, who came up with these ratings? And I questioned a lot of the ratings that we're going to get into in a little bit between the players as well. I feel like they were pretty hard on these guys this year.
I have to agree with you on there, and I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the Browns at an 81 overall, the Bears at an 81 overall, and you have a lot of the same. It seems like all the teams are within that 77 to about 82 range. You have a couple that are higher, a couple that are lower. So I don't know if they're looking at last year's stats. I don't know if they're looking at additions and subtractions to the roster, maybe a bit of both. But some of these rankings, and you could probably go down the list on every team, are a rather bit confusing.
What was that? I missed that last part.
They're a bit confusing to me in terms of how they rated these teams. Like in general, just like how they kept everybody within a crop. So like 78 to 82, and then you had maybe 2 or 3 teams above that.
Yeah, for years I've kind of questioned how these guys go about rating these teams. I think what they're trying to do is show that the NFL is kind of an equal playing field, and because they are professional teams, they should be in line with each other. But at the same time, there are differences between some teams and then some teams, and you can't be afraid to push the ratings up. The Saints, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, they should be a lot higher in rating than teams like the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Giants, and that's just how it is. That's why teams finish the season 14-2, and some teams finish the season 2-14. It's okay on a video game to make it a little bit more realistic. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. But that goes the same for the player ratings as well. I've questioned for years how they go about that, and I think when we jump into a few of these players, it makes sense about how they go about it. They try to base your rating on how you played the previous year. It doesn't matter how good you are as a player. It's going to be how did you play that previous year, because that's what we're going to base it off of, and that's because it's most recent.
Yeah, and that's a good point for everybody to understand, is that they take a lot of the credibility and the number that they pick for you overall by what you did the year before. So that's something to keep an eye on as we move on. Now, let's jump off of the team ratings and get right into the players. And the first topic we're going to talk about is the 99 overall players in this year, and there's 5 of them. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, is your top quarterback. Aaron Donald from the Rams. Stephon Gilmore, the corner from the Patriots. You have Christian McCaffrey at the running back position, and then Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. Now, what was your first initial thought on the 99 overall players? And did Madden have too many 99 overall players, or did they fall short on some guys, in your opinion?
I think my initial thought about it was it seems like they're much more willing to give players 99s, but they're not willing to give teams higher ratings. We have, you know, 5 guys with a 99 overall, but the highest team is an 85. It doesn't make much sense to me. I'm completely fine with Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Donald, Christian McCaffrey, and Michael Thomas being in the 99 club. I'm not too fond of Stephon Gilmore being in there. And the reason for that is when I think of 99, yes, we're basing it off your previous year, and guys like Mahomes, Donald, McCaffrey, and Thomas had huge years, obviously. I'm not saying Gilmore didn't, but if you're a cornerback hitting the 99 club, I think of Darrelle Revis. I think of maybe a Richard Sherman, even a Charles Woodson way back when he was playing the corner position, not Stephon Gilmore. And so I'm not really too fond of that. I would say he's in the 90s, but 99, I think that's pushing it. What do you think?
He was the one that I really questioned, and the way I looked at this was Michael Thomas is a great receiver, but is he even the best receiver in his division? That's the way I kind of looked at it in that perspective, and I know the monster year Thomas had probably makes him deserving of a 99 considering how they evaluate players. I have no problem with McCaffrey. I have no problem with Mahomes. Donald, I have no problem with. The guy's an elite defensive player. Gilmore was the one I questioned too, but then I looked back and I kind of did some research on it, and he was at that Revis level last year. You just don't hear about it. He's a guy that you heard when Revis shut down people. You heard when Woodson shut down people. You knew about that. Gilmore, I feel, fell under the radar, I guess because how New England is. And when I looked at the numbers, I'm like, okay, this guy does deserve a 99. Would I give him a 99? Like if I was looking at it at an overall perspective, no. I would give him a 95 to a 97 range. But, you know, after looking at the numbers, I really can't complain about giving him a 99.
Right. Well, yeah, and jumping into the Michael Thomas thing, I feel the reason I think he should be a 99, do I think he's the best receiver in the league? No, I think you can argue that for sure. There's a lot of good guys at the wide receiver position in the NFL. But I think the year that Thomas had, like I said, they're basing it off the year prior. So for him to have as many receptions as he did, I believe it was an NFL record. I think he passed up Marvin Harrison, didn't he?
I believe
with most
he set
receptions in a single season.
I think he set the record. I don't know who he passed. I'm not 100% sure on that.
I think it might have been Marvin Harrison, but a year like that, I mean, whether he's the best receiver in the league or not, he broke a record, and he had the most catches in the league, and that's what you're supposed to do as a receiver. You're supposed to catch the ball. So if you're able to do that, and you're able to do it at the highest level, he has to be the highest rated receiver in the league. He had the best year out of all the receivers. So in that case, that's why I'm fine with him being a 99. Would I give him a 99? No, but because he's there, I have to agree with it.
Now, I just did some quick research on Pro Football Reference, and you were right. He passed Marvin Harrison. Harrison had 143 catches in 2002. Remember, he was catching passes from the great Peyton Manning. And Thomas had 149. So, based off the season, you could say he's worthy of a 99 for the upcoming Madden game. Now, are there any players in the league that you would consider a 99 that weren't given a 99?
That's tough. You know, I don't think this guy's a 99, but because he's on the cover, I'm a little surprised that Lamar Jackson was as low as he was. You know, he, like I said before, he's had about a good year and a half now, played half his rookie season, and then obviously the full season last year. Year and a half playing at a high level like that, 2 playoff appearances, an MVP, kind of changing the game the way that he is. I'm a little surprised he's as low. So based on Madden covers and how they evaluate you like that, I'm surprised he's not closer to a 99. But as for other players, it might come to me later on in the show, but right now I can't really think of any situation.
Well, as we go along in the show, and I hate to put you on the spot on that one, but as we go along in the show, if we see anybody that we think is 99 worthy, we'll definitely mention it. Now, let's jump right into the top 10 overall players in Madden now in Madden 21. We already talked about the first 5 in Donald, McCaffrey, Thomas, Mahomes, and Gilmore. The next 5, you have Bobby Wagner, the middle linebacker at 98. DeAndre Hopkins, who has a new home this year, he's a 98. George Kittle, the tight end, 98. J.J. Watt, the defensive end, 98. And then Zach Martin, the highest rated offensive lineman. He's a guard for the Dallas Cowboys at 98. Offensive linemen are people too. What do you think of the top 10 overall players?
I'm going to be honest, I don't agree with a lot of it. I remember I think Wagner was a 99 last year.
I believe so.
And I was surprised by that too. Nothing against Bobby Wagner. He's a great linebacker, but 99, I mean, like I said, they're throwing 99s around. Like, I don't know. That's pushing it. You're basically saying the person's perfect, and I don't think Bobby Wagner is in the 99 club. I don't think he's a 98 either. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's arguably the most underrated receiver in the league. So I don't know if I'd give him a 98, but I'm okay with them putting him there because I'm a big fan of him. George Kittle, I think, is pushing it for a 98. I don't think any tight end should be a 98, even though Kittle's one of the best at his positions, if not the best at his position. Watt is pushing it. Are you kidding me? The guy can't even stay on the field. He was great 8 years ago, but this guy is injury prone now. To me, his numbers don't show a 98 rating. I think out of respect, they're giving it to Watt. Out of respect. He's a good guy. He does all the right things, works hard. And Zach Martin, I'm okay with that because he's been one of the better offensive linemen in the league for a while, and he's pretty much the anchor of that Dallas Cowboys line, which is the best line in football. What do you think?
Now, we talked about how they kept the team rating so low, but I feel like they threw overall ratings at some players that don't deserve them. And Wagner, I would say he's more of a 93 to a 94 if I was evaluating him. Hopkins, I don't even think is the second best receiver in the league, let alone worthy of a 98. Kittle, again, and we're going to get into the tight ends later, and I'll get on the soapbox there, but no tight end is worthy of over a 95. Come on. Let's be real. And J.J. Watt, I'm glad you brought him up because this one, it blew my mind. Watt has played in 32 games over the last 4 seasons. Now, let me go into the numbers because I pulled this up for argument's sake. 2016, 3 games. 2017, 5 games. That's 8 games total. 2018, wow, he stayed on the field, 16 games. Woo. Then he played in only 8 games last year. If you're going off of last year to give your evaluations, how do you give a guy who only played in half the season a 98 overall? And I get the whole respect thing, but I don't agree with it. And Martin, too. Martin's an elite guard. I think that's why he's where he is. I have no problem with that one, to be quite honest with you. But I feel like the top 10 is a little misconstrued, especially early on in the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have a lot of agreements there, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. They're throwing around these ratings like it's free candy. And, yeah, like you said, I don't agree that a tight end should be a 98 or above. I don't really care what tight end you are. And J.J. Watt, I said it before, he's injury prone. I feel like the guy's hurt every single year, and I think he always has to come across as this hardworking guy and do this, do that, because he's never actually on the field. So he can't show it on the field, so he's got to show it in press conferences and interviews. So that's the topic for another day, though. I don't want to get into too deep about J.J. Watt. It's not worth my time.
Absolutely. And once he gets injured again or he's off the field, the rating will go down. So it's only a matter of time. Those roster updates are a beautiful thing. Now,
well, we don't know if it's going to go down. The Madden people really like him. He's always up there.
He might not play a single game, and then he'll be a 99. He'll get a higher rating next year.
Exactly.
Now, let's go into different positions, and this is something that I think we're both going to enjoy. We're going to go each position top 10, obviously by position, like I said. And let's start off with the quarterbacks. Obviously, Mahomes at 99. Our boy Russell Wilson, we've already told our viewers how much we love him. He's at a 97. The cover boy Jackson at 94. Then you have Drew Brees at a 93. Tom Brady at a 90. And then it kind of trickles down a little bit. Aaron Rodgers sitting at 89. Matt Ryan, 87. Deshaun Watson, who I know we're going to get into a topic about, is at 86. And then you have Dak and Wentz at 84 apiece. Now, on this list, what was the most surprising number to you?
Oh, that's tough because I'm going down the list and I saw one guy, but I had to keep going. It's got to be Deshaun Watson. I mean, come on. He is better than an 86 overall. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, whether people want to admit it or not. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I love watching him. He's a mobile quarterback. He can make the throws. He can escape the pocket and keep plays alive. And he just got a team to the playoffs this past year. The fact that he's under a guy like Matt Ryan is a joke to me. The fact that you could have an older Tom Brady and Drew Brees above him by, 4 and 7 points is a joke to me. Don't get me wrong, Drew Brees and Tom Brady, they're still playing they're still productive. But Deshaun Watson's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I just think he should have been higher. What do you think?
When I'm looking at this, obviously where Brady and Rodgers are based on what they did in the past. There's nothing, and I repeat, nothing that they did last year that would give them a 90 and 89 respectively grade-wise. First of all, Rodgers has been on the decline for the past 3 years. You look at the numbers, and he's not the same quarterback. Why do you think the Green Bay Packers drafted a quarterback in the first round? They could have obviously got a receiver for him, but they know he's on the second half of his career, and Tom Brady is Tom Brady. They just gave him that 90 because of his name. Is he the fifth best quarterback? No. And if you're looking at it, I think Lamar is too low. I think if you're the cover guy, you should be at least a 95. I think that's a slap in the face to the guy who's on the cover of a game. And like you said, I don't think that Matt Ryan's better than Deshaun Watson. I think that if you're looking at it, I think that Watson should be right behind Breeze. I think he should be at least a 92 or between a 90 and a 92, I would say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The Breeze and Brady conversation goes in line with the J.J. Watt one. It's out of respect. But you have to admit that these guys aren't better than some of these other guys now. Like, yes, they had their time, but I'm not saying their time is up. But in Madden ratings, yes, their time is up right now. If they play better throughout the season, then you improve them week by week. But Matt Ryan should not be above Deshaun Watson. I almost said Jackson again because I'm thinking of Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson, I think, should be a little bit higher. Not by much, but like you said, it's a slap in the face. I mean, you're on the Madden cover. You had the year that he had. You're trying to tell me that Lamar Jackson, the year that he had, should only be a point higher than Drew Brees? Drew Brees didn't have that great of a season. He's on a good team. He's obviously leading that team. He's also throwing to one of the best receivers in the league. So that's another reason why Drew Brees might be a 93 is because he has a 99 that he's throwing to a Michael Thomas. It makes your job a lot easier. So your stats are going to be piled up.
Oh, you got that right, and it's a slap in the face. And Brees, you could put in that conversation with Brady and Rodgers as well. He's there because of name. Like if Brees didn't have the career that he had under his resume, is he a 93 off of last year? Probably not, but it's because of name. The other two I don't really necessarily agree on is Dak and Wentz. I don't think either one's an 84. I think they're both closer to 80, but it is what it is. I get that the quarterbacks get a little bit of a higher rating, but other than that, I just think Watson should be higher. And if you're playing Ultimate Team, if you go online, you're one of these gamers that goes online, you're picking Mahomes, you're picking Wilson, you're picking Jackson. You're not even looking at any other, or Watson, you're not looking at any other quarterbacks. Why? Because you want to run and you want to be able to do things with your quarterback. You're not sitting in the pocket with Tom Brady. You could give him a 99 overall card, but his 45 or 50 speed is not going to do you anything. You're going to get killed.
Oh, yeah, I mentioned a name earlier. It's Michael Vick. Michael Vick changed Madden play. You know, having Michael Vick, knowing that, you know, I'm gonna choose a play where I'm supposed to pass the ball, but I'm gonna drop back and I'm gonna run anyway, even if the guy's open. He changed the way the game is played. I know when I play Madden, I always choose a team, and I shouldn't really be saying this right now because now when I go and verse some friends, they're gonna know my plan. But I choose mobile quarterbacks. I like to have the option to escape the pocket and keep plays alive or throw the ball. Very rarely do I choose a quarterback that is a pocket passer. It's just really not smart when you're playing games, and so yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, you got to keep the versatility, and I'm sure that the buddies you're going to play online are going to have that same mindset. And this is a position that could definitely help you keep that versatility, and it's the running backs. We obviously talked about Christian McCaffrey at 99 overall. The next 5 listed, you have Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley. Then you look down the list, and it kind of dwindles again, but we have a lot of high overalls. You have Dalvin Cook at a 91, Aaron Jones at a 90, Joe Mixon at 89, and then Josh Jacobs and Alvin Kamara at 88 overall. Looking at this list, did anything surprise you? Did you think anything was too high, too low? What was your take on the running backs?
You know, I'll say this. I said earlier that I'm okay with Christian McCaffrey being a 99. But it looks a bit odd how high he is compared to everyone else because I don't think there's that big of a gap, like, at all. I'm going to be honest. I think the best running back in the league is Saquon Barkley. I think when healthy, he's the best running back in the league. Saquon Barkley is a great example of how they base, your Madden rating. It's on your previous season. Saquon Barkley did not have that good of a season last year, so he's a 91. But he is better, a lot better, than Nick Chubb. I mean, that's a slap in the face. I don't even care if it's a point or not. Nick Chubb should not be a 92 at all. Derrick Henry, I'm okay with being a 93 for sure. The guy's a tank. He single-handedly carried the Titans to the AFC Championship game. I'm okay with Elliott being a 92. I'm not a huge fan of Aaron Jones, but you could give him a 90 because he has played well. And then from there, to me, it's a drop-off. I think Kamara dropped off for sure, and I expected that this past year because he doesn't have Ingram. There's no longer a 1-2 punch. You're the sole they're giving you their full attention now, and that could have an impact on your game, which it did. So, McCaffrey, I think it's too high compared to everyone else in this case, and I think Barkley should be higher. Based on Barkley's play last year, he shouldn't be the number one running back, but he is the number one running back in the league, in my opinion.
I agree with you on Barkley, and I want to get on a little bit of a rant here because not only for Barkley, but Ezekiel Elliott, they're both better than Nick Chubb, and it's not even close. Like, I get that Chubb's a good running back. He had a good year last year, and I have no problem with Henry. I would have gave him a 95 because what that dude did, that dude deserves a 95 rating. Like, he had a monster year. Like you said, he carried the Titans. But if you're looking at things from a perspective, and you're not looking at team, you're not looking at talent around them, you're not looking at anything like that, it's hard to pick against Barkley as the best running back in the league talent-wise. And if you look at the numbers, Elliott's been the best running back in the league for the past 5 years. So to have those guys so low, it's very disappointing. And I see it on Twitter all the time. I follow a bunch of my buddies that debate Elliott versus Barkley. They're both good. But if I had to pick one, I'm taking Barkley because the talent's there. He's a young kid. And I blame the Giants for not building around him. When they had that whole draft where the Jets drafted Darnold and the Browns took Baker, I knew the Giants were going to ruin Barkley. It was going to be another Barry Sanders. But again, I can't play GM here, but hopefully the Giants get this guy a damn offensive line so he could get a better rating next year because the guy's not a 91. He's more of a 95 type of running back.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I'm telling you right now, looking across this list at all the ratings, I'm probably going to sit here and say Nick Chubb's by far the most overrated player in this game right now. Nothing against him. I watched him in college at Georgia. He was a good running back, and he's had a nice year last year, but a 92? If you wanted to give him a 92, that's fine, but he shouldn't be above certain players is the point that I'm trying to make. I do think 92 is a bit high, but he definitely should not be above certain players. I would actually – there's a part of me that would almost choose Dalvin Cook over Nick Chubb in real life, like fantasy-wise, depending on if Cook stays healthy. Like, I think Chubb and Cook are in the same category, and I know they're only a point apart, but I think the reason me and you are frustrated with it is because Elliott and Barkley are in the middle of that, and they're a lot better than them. So,
and like you said, you bring up a good fantasy perspective. I hate to get off topic, but it's relevant. If you're looking at fantasy-wise, you're not taking Nick Chubb. The way that the Browns are orchestrated, they have too many weapons, and that's a kind of a deficit to Chubb. They're going to run the ball, obviously, but you're going to see Baker try to throw more the new offensive scheme and whatnot. Dallas is a run team. They're going to give the ball to Elliott. The Giants are going to give the ball to Barkley. They don't really have much other of an option. Barkley's going to be their guy. And to see those guys so low and for what they do, it's just a slap in the face to me. And to be quite honest with you, if you look at that bottom of the list, if you look at Jacobs, Kamara, Mixon, heck, even Aaron Jones, are any of those guys more talented than Le'Veon Bell? I know Bell had a bad year because Adam Gase is the offense killer, but is Bell really worse than any of those guys? I can't see it.
Exactly. I think that Bell is – I personally – look, I'm not just saying this being biased as a Jets fan. He's better than Josh Jacobs. He's better than Joe Mixon. He's better than Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook. Hell, he's better than Nick Chubb. Like, he is. It's just, yes, you know what? He sat out the 1 year. He came back last year. He didn't play well. Like, Adam Gase is the offense killer, and they don't utilize Bell the right way, so he doesn't play well. And that's why I'm saying these Madden guys base it off your previous year. Bell did not have a good year, and look, he's not even on the list. He's not even in this top 10. Meanwhile, he is a top 10 running back. And if we're talking fantasy, it's going to be McCaffrey, Henry, Elliott, and Barkley are going to be the top 4 running backs off the board. No doubt in my mind come football season when people are doing their fantasy drafts. It ain't going to be Nick Chubb. He's not going to be a top 4 running back taken. I could bet my life on that.
We'll have to table that. We'll have to save that thread so we can see where Chubb gets drafted in our fantasy league, so we can debate that later on. Now,
right,
let's jump into the receivers. We already talked about Thomas and Hopkins at the top. Julio Jones sits number 3 at a 97. Then you have Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, who got that big contract from the Cowboys, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, and Odell Beckham Jr. to round out your top 10. What guys on this list surprise you? What guys on this list do you think are right where they need to be?
Okay, so I think Amari Cooper might be ranked a little high. I like Cooper, but 93, I don't know. He doesn't impress me that way. Evans might be sitting where he should be. I think I might put Evans before Amari Cooper, to be honest with you. It's just crazy to me that Odell is a 91. It's crazy because he's better than these guys, you know? He's arguably the best receiver in the league. He really is. It's just he has not been productive at all. And you could say it's him, you could say the quarterbacks. It doesn't matter who it is. He just hasn't been putting up the numbers. He's practically irrelevant last year. So it's just shocking to me that is he not a 91. I think he's supposed to be there based on his play, but potential-wise, he's so much better than most of these guys. What do you think?
I think that from Devontae Adams, well, Adams is okay. I like where he is. Everybody down except for Beckham should be lower. So I think Cooper should be like a 90. I think that Evans should be like a 90 or 91. Diggs is like an 89 to me. Keenan Allen, I don't think is that good, even though his numbers are consistent. I'd make him like an 87. I think Beckham got hurt by last year, obviously, because the Browns stunk. But like you said, you can make the case that if you're looking for a receiver, if you redrafted the NFL today, you might not take Michael Thomas number 1 overall. You might take Odell Beckham based off of talent. You're not taking Hopkins. Julio Jones is there. I feel like he gets disrespected a little bit. I think he should be a 98. But you can make the case that Beckham's a top 5 receiver in this league, even with the last couple of years not going in his favor.
It's weird to say all that, and I know Giants fans might not want to hear this, but in back-to-back positions, who have we mentioned? We've mentioned Saquon Barkley and mentioned Odell Beckham Jr. We're Jets fans saying that, so...
What's the common denominator there, though?
I don't know. What do you think?
The common denominator is the Giants ruined both players. The Giants made Odell Beckham superstar so big that they couldn't handle it, which forced them to trade him to a situation where they thought he was going to fail and thought he was going to be a diva. And what did the guy do? The guy went and he played. You don't hear much about him. You don't hear that he's crying like he used to in New York. He was so big of a star. His star got too big, and that was because of the Giants. And then they draft Barkley with the 2nd overall pick, and what do? They don't draft a line around them. They draft a quarterback who I still think is a bum. They ruined 2 of the best talented guys that we've seen in this generation.
I do agree that they ruined them and they didn't handle it the way that they should have. But I'll say this: I do think Odell ruined it for himself as well, because he was a baby and he thought he was bigger than life, and people really don't like that. Even Giants fans didn't like that about him. You know, Giants fans said, "Hey, listen, do what you got to do on the field, help us win," even though they didn't win. But you know, with that being said, he also ruined it for himself, because as much as people loved him as a player, they hated him as a person, because he's not a good person. So I do agree that the Giants ruined that situation, but Odell also ruined it for himself. And I think I do agree with you that some of these guys are rated a little high. Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, and I mentioned Amari Cooper before. But I think that wide receivers in Madden have always been ranked high. So looking at it that way, I'm like, okay, well, they could sit there, because for years and years, players have always been, I feel, overrated. So in that case, I agree with it. But if if I had to do these ratings, yes, I would have Cooper, Diggs, Allen a little bit lower. Odell, I don't care about the statistics. I know his potential; he'd be higher. I've never been a huge fan of Devontae Adams. For some reason, I credit a lot of his success to Aaron Rodgers. He just doesn't come across to me as a guy that, like, even in fantasy, if he's my number one receiver, I'm not going to lie, I'm not that confident in that. I don't look at him as a Julio Jones, a Hopkins, a Thomas. He's a great player, and he puts up great statistics, but I don't look at him as in the same category as Odell and Thomas and all those guys.
Yeah, I have to agree. He's more of a system guy to me. I don't think his success is any which way deferred to Rodgers, but you can make that case that, you got a Hall of Famer throwing you the ball. It makes it a lot easier. And you mentioned how the receivers are always rated high. The tight ends, as we get into them, to me, are overly rated. And George Kittle, like we talked about earlier, is at a 98. Travis Kelce sitting at 97. Then the guy who didn't even play last year, Rob Gronkowski, sitting at a 95. Zach Ertz at 90. Austin Hooper, 89. Evan Ingram, 88. Then you have Jared Cook, Greg Olsen, Mark Andrews, and Darren Waller wrapping up your top 10. Give me your thoughts on the tight ends. I got to hear what you got to say about Gronk.
Well, the list is a joke. It's literally a joke. George Kittle, listen, the only guys I believe that should be in the 90s in the tight end position, for the tight end position, are George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and Zach Ertz. Once again, I'm not saying that I'm talking based on Madden ratings here. I would probably rank these guys lower, low 90s, max low 90s. But it's Kittle, Kelce, and Ertz are, to me, the three best tight ends in the league. The fact that Rob Gronkowski is a 95 falls into the same category as J.J. Watt, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees. Are they still productive? Yes. But Rob Gronkowski is number one, like J.J. Watt, injury prone. He didn't even play last year. How do you have him as a 95? Plus, he's going to be in a system where it's probably going to be a two tight end system like they had early on in his career with Aaron Hernandez, because they also have O.J. Howard. So they're not just going to have O.J. Howard sitting on the bench behind Rob Gronkowski. They're not. They're going to try to play this early 2010s New England Patriots offense. So he's not going to be putting up numbers that Rob Gronkowski used to. Aside from that, guys like Hooper, I've never been a fan of him. I think, first of all, he's overpaid in Cleveland, for sure. I think they're going to regret that contract. Evan Ingram, injury prone, not an 88 by any means. Cook, Olsen, Andrews, Waller, I'm not even going to get into it. It's not even worth my time. They're rated way too high. What do you think?
I agree with you that there's tier 1, which is Kittle, Kelce, and Ertz, and everybody else should be down. Hooper might not even be the starter in Cleveland. Njoku might be better than him athletically.
Oh, yeah.
So him to be an 89 is a slap in the face. I get Ingram gets overhyped because obviously that's all Daniel Jones throws to. But I honestly, those are some of the most overhyped ratings, and just looking at them get me sick. So I gotta kind of move on from it. I can't keep looking at it. It makes me go crazy. Now let's go on to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll start off with defensive ends, and this is a mix of defensive ends and defensive tackles. So don't think we're missing the big boys in the middle. I'm not gonna read through the names. We have them right on the screen for you. The two that amaze me, first of all, I think that the Bosa's are a little bit too low, both of them. I think that they're both elite. If you're going off of last year, they were both they had very good years. And how do you make Myles Garrett a 93 after he was suspended? Well, just like paying him all that money, same thing. How does he fall as a 93 based on how his season ended? That's just amazing to me.
I agree that the Bosa should be higher for sure, especially Nick Bosa. I think Nick Bosa for sure is the next big thing. He had a great rookie year. He made that defense a lot better. And you know, it was weird too when you bring up the Myles Garrett thing, because I was actually going to say, once again, based on Madden ratings, he should actually be a little bit higher.
Wow.
I know the whole thing that happened to end his year last year was a mess, but I can't sit here and say that his Madden rating should be, messed up because of that. I do think he's one of the better players in the league. Aside from that, yeah, I tried to look right over J.J. Watt again. I don't want to get into that. Calais Campbell, I think, is rated too high. I don't think he's the same player that he used to be, and that's, I think, why he was traded. What do you think?
I just want to know something. Is Myles Garrett's hitting number higher because he showed us he could hit people with helmets?
Well, I heard that's a new thing you could do in the game. If things get out of control, it turns into a little bit of NFL Street. But I'm not sure about that. That was rumored.
That would be good because we saw the way he could hit him. He first of all he knocked him to his behind, and then he hits him with the helmet. It was kind of great. But again, I think Campbell, like you said, is a little too high. Cameron Jordan may even be a little too high for me. But I just think the Bosa's got to be a little higher, and I think they'll get there over time. Now, we'll jump right into the outside linebackers, and I think that if you're looking at this, you look at the top 4. You have Khalil Mack at 97, Von Miller at 97, Chandler Jones at 95, and then Demario Davis. There's a big drop-off. He's at 89. Imagine if the Jets could find a guy like Demario Davis, bro. It's amazing. Imagine if he was here. Are you sure about that?
Aside from that, TJ Watt, he's a guy who's been coming up the past few years for sure. Darius Leonard, I feel like he should be a little bit higher. The year that he had 2 years ago, but once again, that's how Madden ratings are, right? It's based on the previous year. And it's interesting. You have 2 Packers on there, both Smiths, which they added last year. That's why their defense was improved. But I'm okay with this because, like I said, it's Mack, Miller, Jones. To me, are one tier, and then the other guys are in the rest, and that's why there's a drop off. That's why after them, there's not a single 90s player.
Yeah, I think they got this right too, and I think that they got them right in terms of rating and in order too. I think that they just nailed the outside linebacker position really well. And you mentioned that there was 2 Packers on this list. There's 2 middle linebackers that are Jets, and one of them the Jets don't even want to keep. All the rumors say they don't want him back, and that's Avery Williamson. Obviously, he's coming off the torn ACL because Adam Gase finds it fitting to play his starting middle linebacker in a preseason game in the second quarter with the backups. But we won't get into that. But this is one of the positions with a very big drop. You have Bobby Wagner at the top, and then there's a really significant drop otherwise here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Jets players before with C.J. Mosley and Avery Williamson. To be honest with you, I would say C.J. Mosley's a lot closer to the 90s. And that's not being biased. He seriously is one of the better linebackers in the league, Pro Bowl type of player. He just had a down year because he missed the whole year. But look at the one game he actually was at full health for. He had a pick 6. So, Mosley, if he's back on the field and he's healthy, he's going to get that rating up for next year. Williamson's a guy who, and it's crazy to say because I should have said Williamson in the same sentence, because Williamson was hurt all of last year too and tore his ACL. And these guys are still 85 and 84, so that goes to show how highly respected these players are. But there's a huge drop off after Wagner. But I think that's because these players haven't. I mentioned Mosley and Williamson being injured, but the rest of the guys haven't really impressed me the past few years. So I understand the drop off. I really do.
Yeah, I totally get it too. I agree with you there. And Mosley was hurt. Williamson was hurt, but I think that both guys will improve this year as we're talking Jets. Williamson was their best defensive player other than Adams the year before. Like, you couldn't take Williamson off the field, and there was a significant drop. I think a lot of people forget that. And if he comes back healthy and he makes this Jets roster, because we all know the Jets don't like to keep talent, it's going to be an issue in terms of how they're going to play Mosley and Williamson. I think it's going to be a nice issue for Greg Williams to have because he's going to have versatility and flexibility within his defense.
Oh, yeah, and the fact that they're actually considering getting rid of Williamson, I've been saying for a while that it's a joke because what the Jets typically like to do is they like to trade away talent so they don't have to pay them, but they bring in worse players. So I just ultimately I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I think they would have already if they were going to. So I'm looking forward to having them both at the linebacker position. And you mentioned a guy like Jamal Adams, which I know we're going to be getting to shortly.
And we're jumping into corners. We're a position away from that lovely Adams talk, and the corners. I hate to say it, but I kind of agree with them. I get Patrick Peterson at the bottom as an 88. I don't know if he's at that level anymore. I think that's more of like a Brady and Breeze type of thing where it's name that gets him where he is. And you can make a case Sherman's not as elite as he used to be. Maybe he's not worthy of a 92, but I understand why he's there. But everything else to me is pretty solid. What is your take?
So I had my disagreements with Stephon Gilmore earlier. Jalen Ramsey, I love Jalen Ramsey. Like, I don't really like the person that he is, but the player, I think he's one of the, by far, to me, he might be the best corner in the league. But statistics haven't really shown that, so I understand the 94. I don't think there should be a 5-point drop off from Gilmore to Ramsey by any means. Sherman, I think, is in there out of respect. Is he still playing well? Absolutely. You know, he was the best corner on the 49ers last year who made the Super Bowl. But I don't think he's a 92. But the interesting one there is Byron Jones at the 88, who just signed a mega deal with the Dolphins. I believe it made him the highest paid corner in the league. So there you go, Dolphins. There's your typical let's overspend it for agency for the best player on the market at the time, paying guys that aren't even the best at their position. So, but hey, we're division rivals, so do what you want. I'm fine with it.
Hey, his 88 overall rating got the Dolphins to their big 76 overall team rating, all right? That's important for them to have that.
There you go.
But again, I don't see any problems with this. It doesn't really bother me. I get the corner position's tough. But I do have issues with the safety position. And as you and I both know, we're both St. Joe's graduates. And we love St. Joe's. We both bleed green and gold. Devin McCourty is rated where he should be at a 92. He has been a valuable piece to the New England Patriots defense for years and years now. And he is a elite safety in this league, and I understand that. But how is the best safety in the NFL the 4th rated safety in Madden? How is this possible that Jamal Adams is the 4th best safety in a game where he is the biggest game changer we've seen in a long time at the position? He should at least be a 95 or a 96. He's better than Harrison Smith. The only one that I would say is close to him is Tyrann Mathieu, and he's a 93. That's a slap in the face to him, too.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Listen, we know Devin McCourty he's had a hell of a career, but that's a huge slap in the face of Jamal Adams. What Jamal Adams brings to the game every Sunday or Monday or Thursday, whatever day they're playing on, it's a lot more than what Devin McCourty has done. I mean, come on. The Devin McCourty thing to me is once again out of respect. The guy's been playing in the league for a decade now. He's been playing at a high level. He's won a few Super Bowls. But what Jamal Adams is, in my opinion, the best safety in the league, and that's not me being biased. It backs it up. Look at his statistics. Look at the fact that he's been to the past 2 Pro Bowls. Look at the fact that he was first team All-Pro this past year. And another problem that I have is how is Minkah Fitzpatrick not in the top 10?
That is true.
He was also All-Pro, and I'm not even sure who won Defensive Player of the Year.
I'm not 100% sure.
I know he was up there. He had a great year, and it's just shocking to me that he's not on there. Guys like Mike Hyde and Earl Thomas, who I'm not going to say he's washed up, but come on. Earl Thomas over Minkah Fitzpatrick right now? If Madden wants to base their ratings on what they did the previous year, how do you not have a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick who had multiple interceptions, he had some big-time games, and you were first-team All-Pro? I don't get that.
Last year, he had 14 starts with the Steelers, had 57 tackles, 5 interceptions, 9 passes defended, and a forced fumble. He is a top 10 safety, and the Steelers had a big issue with this. They actually tweeted Madden and was like, delete this because Fitzpatrick's better than that. But it goes to show you that the Madden ratings do become pointless at some point. And there's a lot of players that deserve a higher rating. Take a guess at what Fitzpatrick's rating is in this game.
I'm going to say I'm just gonna say 80.
That's exactly where he is at 85, and he's a top 5 safety.
Yeah, I just threw 85 out there because I was like, if they already disrespected him, you might as well put him at 85. Like that, I said that because like that's the lowest that he should be. He shouldn't be there, but if they were gonna put him anywhere, that's the lowest. Yeah, it's a joke to me. Justin Simmons, Derwin James. Derwin James barely played last year.
Yeah, like I don't understand.
I mean, come on,
that.
I don't know.
That just blows my mind. But other than that, what else do you see on this list that kind of stands out to you?
I don't know if I think Harrison Smith should be at 95. Not so much that I'm in disagreement with the number, but he just shouldn't be number 1 at all. And I like Harrison Smith. I'm a Notre Dame fan. He's one of those guys, and he's had a nice career. He's been one of the better safeties in the league, but he just shouldn't be number 1. And I think I made that clear with the Jamal Adams comment before. So, I mean, that's really where I see. I think that the guys at the top of the list should be at the top of the list. I just would have rated them and ranked them a little bit differently.
I have to agree with you there. I think Adams has to be number 1 on my list. That's the biggest pet peeve that I have with this list. Now, obviously, we're from the tri-state area, so what else would we do but talk about Jets and Giants? They're notable players, and let's start with the Giants. This is their top 10 list, as you can see on our screen. Barkley's their top-rated player at 91, and then you look down the list, and there's a couple of guys that stand out. You have Jabril Peppers, the Jersey native, at 80 overall. Leonard Big Cat Williams also at 80. They franchise tagged him. I don't know if I agree with that, but it is what it is. And then Aldrick Rosas, the kicker. Kickers are people too, Kyle. Even though he got arrested, he might not even be with the team. He's a 79 overall. Did you see anything on this list that stood out to you? Anything that maybe surprised you?
I think Barkley, my dog's over here. I think Barkley should be higher, obviously. I mentioned that before. I think Evan Ingram rated too high. I think it's a guy who doesn't really see the field too much. I like Jabril Peppers at 80. Leonard Williams, to me, is rated a little too high. The kicker's rated definitely a little too high. Darius Slayton, I think, should be at least an 80. I think he's a guy who had a big year last year. And Dale Jones, shocking to me that he's a 72. Shocking, because I like the year he had last year as a rookie a lot. I think he's gonna be really good. So the fact that he's so low, it just doesn't make sense to me. What do you think?
Now, it's funny you bring them up because I'm going to put up the notables here. Darius Slayton sitting at a 78 overall. I agree with you. He was probably the best weapon for the Giants last year. He should definitely be an 80. You have Dexter Lawrence that they're high on. Xavier McKinney, who the Giants drafted this year, at a 74. Daniel Jones at a 72. We'll kind of get into the Jets and Giants quarterback discussion when we get to the Jets. And then their first-round pick, Andrew Thomas, who's rated below Mekhi Becton. I would just like to make that well known for everybody. And then Nate Solder, who the Giants, as we know, overpaid for, sits in at a 70 overall. Now, let's jump into gangrene here. Adams, as we already said, is ridiculously low. And then you have Le'Veon Bell at 87 overall. We kind of talked about Mosley and Williamson. But other than that, any of those following guys stand out to you?
To be honest with you, it looks about right to me. I had my disagreements. I think Adams should be ranked better. I think Bell should be ranked better. I think Mosley and Williamson are good where they are because they didn't play last year. But aside from that, it seems all about right to me. There's Quentin Williams goes to show, bust. Darnold, 73. Like him and Jones, they're in the same boat. But I think both Darnold and Jones are going to have good careers. I think those ratings will go up over time. But aside from that, all I could really say is like the Jets and Giants, it goes to show that both of them stink. Real bad.
That was so nice of you to just come out and say, it shows they stink. That's it. They stink. That's the final thought. That's it. Done.
I mean, it goes. Look, the team ratings are there, and the player ratings are there. Each team has. I think they're both very similar, actually. Like their build and how they go about things. With young quarterbacks, good running backs. The receivers are so-so. They're trying to improve the offensive line. They have good young safeties, but the rest of the defense is kind of shaky. The linebacking cores are all right. So, and they both have bad coaches. So
that is very true. Now, I'm going to bring up the notables for everybody to see. Like you mentioned, Quinnen Williams, a 78 overall. Quincy Enunwa with his annual, oh, we feel bad for this guy, we're going to give him a 77. Then you have Henry Anderson, who they overpaid at 76. Brashawn Perryman, who they signed and said it was a bargain deal off of what they would have gave Robbie Anderson. He's a 76. Bless Austin, who I think stinks, a 73. Nathan Shepard, another guy who stinks, 73. Darnold, the 21st ranked player on the Jets. That's embarrassing. Chris Herndon, I'm sorry I'm going on a rant here, but I have to. Chris Herndon, who isn't even the best tight end on the team, is 72. Mekhi Becton, who I think already is going to be a bust, 72. And then Ryan Griffin, who I think is the best tight end on the team, should be a little bit higher. I would have gave Darnold a 75 because I would have gave him 2 pity points for being a Jet.
You know what? I got to sit here and laugh when I look at the list. I don't know why I wasn't laughing the first time around, but it just hit me. The fact that Sam Darnold's below Bless Austin.
And Nathan Shepard, a Division II prospect.
Well, I'm laughing because it's not even true. Like, who came up with these ratings? Like, that's a joke. Like, come on. Darnold is not that. He's really not bad at all. He's really not. I'm a very honest person, and I'm very honest. Nick knows I'm very honest when it comes to the Jets. And Darnold's not that bad. So the fact that any of these guys on this list, on the notables, literally, there is not a single person on that list who should be above Sam Darnold. Come on.
I'm gonna disagree. I think there's 2.
McGovern?
I think McGovern and I think Jenkins. I think what Jenkins has done has been quietly, I think not much better, but I think they're better. Quincy Enunwa hasn't played. Listen, I had more receptions than him.
Why is he even on the list?
I have no idea.
He's not even on the team anymore, like, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Quinnen Williams is a bust. He'll drop. Bless Austin.
Oh,
he is below Bless Austin and Nathan Shepard. This is the state of the New York Football Jets, Kyle. This is the state.
But I don't agree with it. I'm hoping that Sam Darnold looks at this and it somewhat motivates him. Not motivates him to go to the Hoboken Strip and miss a few games again because of mono, but motivates him to, get in the weight room and get on the field and start practicing. Because I think rating-wise, it's a joke. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I think he should be like a 76, 77.
I agree with you.
I think the same for Daniel Jones.
I agree with you there. I think Jones should be like a 74 or 75, but Darnold should be a little bit higher. Now, I'm going to bring up the Madden cover because as we wrap up the show, but we do have a little bit of breaking news. I want your opinion on it. I'm going to throw you into the fire here. The Washington, I don't even know what you want to call them. They found out what they want to call themselves.
The name came out?
The name came out. They're going to call themselves the Washington Football Team.
No, they're not.
That's what Adam Schefter is saying, my friend. He says that they are going to call themselves the Washington Football Team, and they're going to retire the name. They're going to use the same color scheme, and they're going to then talk to like their people to come up with logos and stuff. What do you think? Washington Football Team. It's got a weird ring to it.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's about as brutal as the team. But I did just, I guess it's fitting in that sense, but I did just see the notification. It said it's a temporary name. I can't even believe that. But whatever. I mean, it's
even as a temporary name. How do you make that a name, a temp name?
So you're telling me that that division's the New York Football Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles, the America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, and then the Washington Football Team. There you go. It looks like they forgot their name.
They should. It amazes me. I can't even get over it. I laughed because I saw the notification come up, and I hate looking at my phone when it shows on, but I saw Schefter, and I'm like, okay, this got to be something. And sure enough, it was that. So that's a nice little way for us to wrap up the show. What are your final thoughts today as we wrap up our Madden 21 edition?
So part of my final thoughts is that there's no one. I don't think I saw anyone from the Washington football team in the ratings.
That is so true.
Yeah, well, there you go. But aside from that, hey, listen, I'm the type of person that I don't always get the Madden games, but when I do, I always enjoy playing them. Madden's one of the most popular games out there. If you're a sports fan, if you're a football fan, you're most likely going to get every year the updated game. I haven't checked out all the new features that are going to be in this game. I do think I'll be purchasing it because I enjoyed playing Madden 20. I thought the game was pretty good. I'm in agreement and disagreement with some of the ratings. I think they need to improve the way that they go about it for next year, for sure. But overall, I'm excited. I'm excited to play, and I had a good time talking about this today. It was a different topic, and today's a sports day. We haven't had that in a while. This is a live sports day now. We were talking about the Madden ratings today, and we also have baseball opening up, so I'm excited about that as well. What do you think?
It was a fun and refreshing topic. I know we joked about the Jets a lot, but it's friendly humor for us because we're both Jet fans. We can make fun of them. We disagree on some of them. We agree on some of them, what they came up with the ratings, but overall the game is usually fun. I usually enjoy it. I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to get it, but I ultimately think I will. It's a fun game to play. It comes out August 25th, the pre-order edition. If you pre-order the game, you also get it for the new console if you do decide to buy a new console, so think about that. August 28th is the official release for everybody else, I believe. But, again, it's fun talking about this stuff. And like you said, we finally have live sports, so moving forward, we'll have some live sports to talk about. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a different spin. It's going to get us back on track as to where we were looking to start when we actually began the podcast. So, a lot of exciting things for us here, and we had a lighthearted show today. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, starting next week, we haven't discussed a topic for next week's episode yet, but we can say this. We're going to be a week into baseball at that point. We're going to be a week away from basketball and hockey if we ever decide to touch on the hockey subject. I just figured to throw that in there because hockey is starting up. I know I'll be watching it. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what the topics are, the topics that we have in store for the future. It's going to be nice to be talking about some live sports, something that this is my first podcast. I've never actually talked live sports before, so I'm excited for that. And I know when Nick and I discussed this almost a year ago about starting up our own podcast, the thought was we'd be talking about live sports. And obviously with everything that happened, I think we got into it at the right time because it allowed us to kind of dabble in some other topics. But what we really started this up for is about to happen, and I feel like the shows are going to get better and better from here on out because there's just going to be so much to talk about. So I'm excited for that. And as always, I enjoy tuning in. I enjoy doing this every week, and I hope you guys enjoy tuning in each week.
We might have to think about doing shows where we talk about multiple topics at this rate, because when the live sports start, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to want to talk about. So we might have to do some shows where we might talk a little baseball, talk a little basketball, talk a little hockey, talk a little bit about everything. Heck, make fun of the Jets a little bit. It seems like a common trend for us,
Yeah, I think you guys could pick up on the fact that we're Jets fans at this point. You'll start to pick up on the fact that we're going to trash the Jets and make fun of them, but we're going to praise the Yankees like little biased boys. Yeah, it's just how we are. But that's what that's what the Yankees do for us. They actually bring us happiness and enjoyment. We have pride in being a fan of them. And the Jets, it's almost at the point where you're wearing a bag over your head when you're watching the games, and you decide to turn it off and do something else on a Sunday. But I think you guys are getting the point that we're trying to make as well. So.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to follow us, find us on Facebook at Let's Debate Podcast, on Twitter at Let's Debate Pod, our Instagram account at Delahanty Media. You can find some information about everything and anything going on with the Delahanty Media Incorporation. We're trying to expand our brand. And like Kyle said earlier, we are truly excited to talk live sports with you starting next week because now everything's getting back into action. Buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride, and we hope that you come along for the ride with us. For Kyle Delahanty, I am Nick Delahanty, and this is another episode of the Let's Debate Podcast. We'll catch you next week, same time, same place here on Facebook Live, starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. Until then, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good week, guys.